Hi, I'm Stella Winston. Royce Mathew is a Hollywood screenwriter and an independent filmmaker. In the 80s and 90s, he created and wrote many original pieces. One of them was the Supernatural pirate movie. The property Supernatural pirate movie was registered with the U.S. Copyright Office. Two companies, William Morris Agency, a creative artist agency in the 90s, shopped around this particular property as well as other properties to the Walt Disney Company. Subsequently, Walt Disney came out with the movie Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Royce Mathew is suing Walt Disney for that movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. I have Royce Mathew on the phone. Hello, Royce.
Hello.
Okay, in my introduction, did I get it all? Did I capture what you've been going through with your lawsuit?
Some of it.
What should be added to what I said?
I worked in the industry, pitching my creative work and my talent. Disney was actively seeking and recruiting new artists. My work, including my Supernatural pirate story, was stolen via Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio through Michael Eisner. They also took a bunch of my other work. I have a website which details all of it. I've sued the Walt Disney Company 3 times. Twice in Florida, once in California. I also sued Jerry Bruckheimer, and Ted Elliott, and Terry Rossio. And I'm continuing to fight for accountability.
Now, Royce Mathew, you had your properties registered in the U.S. Copyright Office. How come that didn't protect you? Or what could you say about the legal process? Where did it fail you?
The Copyright Office states the day you create your work is the day you get copyright protection. Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, the 2 writers I had sued, have stated on their website that a copyright will not protect your work if somebody wants to steal it. There's a slight delay in talking, so I apologize for my enunciation. What Disney did is create bogus documents, fraudulent physical evidence, and threaten me and my family. I've gone public. I have proof of my creative work existing and the history of the creation of the work, including a short derivative work published on Interactive in 1994 and 1995. I have files, floppies, witnesses, and a vast amount of files. Ted Elliott, Terry Rossio, Disney have nothing. All their computers, they have proclaimed, were either stolen, given away, wiped clean, vanished, or they fried.
So, Royce Mathew, where are you with the lawsuit? How long has the lawsuit been going on, and where are you with it right now?
The steps were, I notified Disney in 2004 after gathering all my evidence to confront them. Disney started to talk to me, but when I notified them of Michael Eisner's involvement, they slammed the door in my face. They tried to pretend that he had no involvement. They ignored me. So I sued them. Suddenly, Disney said, "We'll talk to you." They flew down to Florida and met with my attorney. I stopped my lawsuit. They seemed that they were willing to discuss this and properly resolve this. Yet suddenly, Disney started doing unscrupulous things, which included them fabricating evidence and creating fraudulent physical evidence. We protested, but they stepped up their act. So we sued them again, this time in California at their doorstep, on their turf. And during the mediation, the legal proceedings, Disney stepped up their fraudulent physical acts. They threatened me and my family to end my lawsuit. A copy of one of their notes is on my website, telling me if I don't end my lawsuit one day before the premiere of the second movie, they will seek all this expenses, damages, and other financial charges against me. I protested, and I sought intervention from the Disney Board of Directors, including Bob Iger and Steve Jobs. A copy of their letter is on my website. I realized at that point it is pointless to have any discussion with Disney inside the court or outside of the court until there's change in the company. So I filed another lawsuit letting the court know that I'm coming back with a fourth lawsuit. I've been collecting evidence against them which exposes their fraudulent and criminal and corrupt acts they engaged in during the legal proceedings. Some of this evidence is on my website, www.disneylawsuit.com.
Okay, so that's www.disneylawsuit.com. Now, Royce, you have more than one lawsuit then against Walt Disney. You have the lawsuit for Pirates of the Caribbean and the lawsuit for their fraudulent practices. Is that correct?
No. You don't sue for fraudulent practices. You notify the board of directors. That's their job, to prevent things like this from happening. The SEC, Security Exchange Commission, also should get involved. They've been notified, and copies of their correspondence is on my website. I have to show everyone, the shareholders, investors, investigators, and the public, that Michael Eisner is still in control of that company
Now,
and show details and exposing their fraudulent acts and criminal actions that they engaged in, so people can see it firsthand how this company really operates. And only then, when there's change and accountability, do they get a fourth lawsuit.
now, have you actually been in court with the lawsuit? Did a judge hear the lawsuit?
I had a trial date, December 2007, but Disney threatened me to end my lawsuit in May. When a company does something like this is not business or legal matters anymore. It's criminal.
Did you keep the date? Did you go?
I had to dismiss my lawsuit because Disney created a document telling me to admit that their lies, concocted facts, and fraudulent physical evidence was true. A copy of this is on my website.
I'm trying to understand why you dropped it, Ross. Do you feel, was it because Walt Disney twisted your arm to I'm trying to understand why you did not keep that date. I'm not understanding that.
When you're dealing with a company on all levels, including Bob Iger, using fraudulent physical evidence and telling you to admit with a court document,
Okay.
then I said I cannot get a day in court until this corruption is exposed. They went to court with the fraudulent physical evidence and told the court that I had no case. It's called a summary judgment. So thus, if Disney does this, it's pointless to sue them. If the board of directors don't get involved, it's pointless to have board of directors. Then who's running the company? Bob Iger, their lawyers, their stack of documents did not stop them from engaging in probable acts. They were protecting Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio and Michael Eisner. The only way to get accountability is for everyone to see what's going on in that company.
Now, you have your website to show what happened to you with Disney. It's all up on your website, and your website is disneylawsuit.com. How will having all this information on the internet help your cause to get what's rightfully yours, which is the story Supernatural pirate movie? How will that help you to get justice?
This is now bigger than just a copyright issue. The website and the information on it was filed in court. I'm making the wheels of justice turn to hold the Walt Disney Company accountable. This website is to show investigators, shareholders, investors, the facts. There's no way to communicate this amount of material without the website.
Now, The material on the website is Disney. Of course, Disney is aware of what's going on with the website. So, is your tactic to pressure them through the website with bad publicity? Is that your tactic, to have the negative press about Walt Disney on through your website? Is that how you are going up against them for justice?
No. I'm seeking the shareholders, investors, and investigators to review the materials, and much more is coming. Disney is a master of cover-up. The website is a form of communication and to ensure that the facts are not hidden. Disney is a publicly traded company. Michael Eisner does not own the company. He's the second largest shareholder, individual shareholder. He should get involved. He can't just sit back and say, ignore Royce. If he does, he's covering up. As I stated, my website was filed in court. Public record. The documents are public record. And I will continue to demand investigators, shareholders, investors to look into this matter. Obviously, you can't write a letter. You have to have materials. And the website is a useful tool for the document.
Royce Mathew, you are an independent filmmaker, and you have other creative properties other than Supernatural Pirate movie. This experience that you've been through and you're going through has taught you a few things. For other screenwriters out there that have properties, what would you say to them so that they may not experience what you are experiencing right now with Pirates of the Caribbean and Walt Disney?
Unfortunately, the film industry is run by a group of people in powerful positions that have allowed the theft of other people's work as business. There's no way to protect yourself. I'm lucky because I made a short film, and it's published in 1994-95 on Interactive.
What film is that?
I took my short film and turned it into a derivative work and released it. This shows that my work existed prior to Disney's work.
What do you expect to come out of this, Royce Mathew? Where do you see it going? Do you see any positivity coming out of it for yourself and for other screenwriters?
May writers start knowing each other. The Writers Guild of America slammed the door in my face. I hope that this will motivate people to fight for accountability, because what happened to me can happen to anyone and has happened to other people.
Now, the soaps have been canceled. The soaps are owned by ABC, the Walt Disney Company, and the viewing public is highly upset. How do you go up against a huge corporation like Walt Disney? Okay, so you're fighting them, you're going up against them, and yours is an individual fight. But as a viewer of soaps, you know, how would an audience go up against something like Walt Disney?
The problem at the Walt Disney Company doesn't start with me. It starts with Michael Eisner, Bob Iger, and the board of directors. The company is acting like a private company. That has to end. When the company has become Michael Eisner's playground, he wanted the Muppets, he wanted Marvel, he wanted my work, he wanted Einstein, baby Einstein. He even took the Power Rangers and just recently sold them. They don't listen to the public. What they're listening to is the register. When the public stops buying their merchandise and stops seeing the Disney films, and they demand from the board of directors righteous change by the firing of Bob Iger, then maybe people will have power again.
So Michael Eisner and the two others that you've named, they basically run the company. The board of directors obviously are not holding them accountable. Is this what your perception is of what's going on? And how could someone like you, Royce Mathew, speak to the board of directors? What type of communication has to take place?
Getting the communication out is a step. Michael Eisner has put into play a system where the board of directors are now traveling every year to different parts of the country for the annual shareholder meeting. So they're making it more difficult for the masses to address them. Instead, they say this is the way to see the public and the shareholders. That should stop. Disney should be concerned of getting the most shareholders in one location. But they're not doing that. Change has to come through people and discussion. Bob Iger and Michael Eisner have been under fire before for their actions in the company, yet nothing has happened. Roy Disney started to take out Michael Eisner, but eventually he stopped.
So, Royce Mathew, what's your next move? What's your next step? You have your website, DisneyLawsuit.com. It's there for anyone who wants to see everything that you spoke of here in this interview and more. I did go to the website and I did see it's extensive. What's your next move as the independent filmmaker, screenwriter, to get retribution from the Walt Disney Company?
I don't know if retribution is the correct word. I'm seeking accountability first, then another lawsuit. I want change in the company. The Security Exchange Commission needs to get involved. Steve Jobs needs to get involved. shareholders need to get involved. I apologize that I'm talking like this, but the phone is interrupting my hearing.
You know, hindsight is 20/20. If you could go back and change anything to protect yourself, would you do anything differently?
Nope. Because what Disney did and told the court, because they can put something of theirs in somebody else's work, therefore they own it.
So let's say I have a property, an idea, and I get it shopped to Walt Disney. They'll outright reject and then take it and run with it, and there's nothing I can do?
To get into the Walt Disney Company, you have to be invited. You have to go through an agent.
So let's say I have an agent to take my property. I understand that. They take my property to Walt Disney. Walt Disney rejects it, but then a year later I see something very similar to my property, my creative property. What am I supposed to do? What do I do?
That's a unique situation for each person. In my case, Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio stole a bunch of my work. There's record of their act and their criminal act. If somebody steals your screenplay and you don't learn about it, then you don't know. If it shows up years later, like what happened to me, I had to do a lot of research and connect the dots. And the evidence, documents, and facts paint the picture.
So you've painted the picture, the evidence is there, Walt Disney is getting bad press. Why don't they just come out and settle with you? It seems like the right thing to do, the honest thing to do. It would show accountability on their part and responsibility. What's stopping them?
Disney's saying they're getting bad press. There's no bad press. There's only criminal act. And it's documented. They're a publicly traded company. If they want to be a private company, then they need to become a private company. Number two, if Disney wanted to settle with me, I gave them numerous chances to do the right thing. I even pleaded for intervention, and they ignored me and threatened me. This boils down to Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner's personal friend, Sandy Litvak. His company friend, Bob Iger, Marty Sklar. This is why they did it, because Michael Eisner is never wrong. Jeffrey Katzenberg sued Michael Eisner, and Michael Eisner did not want to admit that he did something wrong. Michael Eisner paid Michael Ovitz over $100 million, and still nothing happened to Michael Eisner. It's Michael Eisner's company. He's still the second largest individual shareholder. He also got Pixar. Michael, in my opinion, as other people have said, is a megalomaniac. He's never wrong. And he wants total control.
Now, did you ever speak to him directly, Michael Eisner, about?
Not at the Walt Disney Company. but I know him from Paramount.
Let's talk about the parallels with your work, Supernatural Pirate Movie and Pirates of the Caribbean. I personally have never seen any of them. But let's look at the original one, Curse of the Black Pearl. Now, Black Pearl is directly out of your property. Is that true?
The Black Pearl pirate ship, the supernatural story associated with it, and characters and fictional invention is all my property. Do you know for the 4th movie, Disney turned around and licensed the book to do the same thing, but at least they pay the author.
So all the subsequent movies, the sequels are all based on your original material, Supernatural Pirate Movie. They all come from that, and there are parallels. Okay.
That is correct. The first movie is my work. The second and third movies, my characters. 4th movie, they branched off further, called Derivative Works.
Now, what characters are yours? Could you name the particular characters in Pirates of the Caribbean?
Eccentric pirate, which Johnny Depp played. The evil pirate captain. Elizabeth. The one-eyed pirate. Will Turner.
Now, the Supernatural Pirate Movie, your property, parallels the Pirates of the Caribbean. Basically, it's your movie. That's what you are. That's why you have the lawsuit against Walt Disney. It seems, from what I'm hearing from you, is that anyone that has any creative property, even if it is registered with the U.S. Copyright Office, you're not protected.
You have to fight. Disney controls a vast amount of attorneys and the powerhouse attorneys. Disney knows this. It's part of their business plan. So they figured most people would not even get a chance to sue them in court. My creative property is my creative property. Their creative property is their creative property. They don't own my creative property by absorbing my creative property into theirs. This problem can be resolved by accountability and looking at the facts and material and the evidence.
So,
there's a book called Disney War by James Stewart, published in 2005, details how Michael Eisner runs that company and who still of Michael Eisner's regime is still in the company. So when a big company like that wants to steal your work and get away with it, they have the resources to do it.
Royce Mathew, you're going up against a giant. Walt Disney is a giant. But even giants can be taken down. Somehow, if everything you say is true, you have it on your website, DisneyLawsuit.com. How will they be brought down? How will justice be served? How will justice be served? How will you make it happen? Well, how much press have you received? Okay, you're doing this interview now. How has the press received your lawsuit? What kind of coverage have you been getting?
I am not in charge of the press. I'm seeking investigators, shareholders, and the public to hold this publicly traded company accountable. That's my lawful right. And the evidence and documents is needed to show the shareholders, investigators, and the public what this company is doing.
So, Royce Mathew, once the shareholders are aware of it, I don't know how many shareholders Walt Disney has, they would then have the power to say to Michael Eisner, look, this is Royce Mathew's property. He should be compensated for his property. They would have to do it. This is what I'm hearing from you. Is that correct?
No. Investigators and the shareholders, investors need to make change in that company. Then the company will start acting like a righteous company. And when you go to them and you say there's a conflict, they discuss it. There's got to be change within the company, a publicly traded company. Jerry Bruckheimer can ignore me, but the Walt Disney Company has an obligation to the shareholders to take these serious charges seriously. So I'm doing the best I can to educate the investigators, shareholders, and the public that righteous change needs to be made in the company. Demand accountability, just like the ABC soap. If they don't hear the public, then basically the Walt Disney Company is a private company. When Michael Eisner paid his buddy over $100 million for 12 months of work, the shareholders sued to get that money back. And the court ruled that the shareholders should have done something before.
Oh.
Thus, he gets to keep the money.
Oh, okay. So the power is with the shareholders. The shareholders of Disney have to be made aware of what is going on with those entities, Michael Eisner and all others that you named. They have to be made aware of it. And if they're not made aware of, let's say in your case, the property supernatural pirate movie, they're not going to do anything about it. If they don't know, then you're not going to win a lawsuit. This is what you're saying, that the only chance for your lawsuit to be successful is for the shareholders to be made aware of what Michael Eisner and the bunch are doing.
No.
No, okay.
To make change in the company.
So you want Disney to change?
I want legal and lawful practices that they say they do to be enforced. I want investigators to investigate. The Walt Disney Company doesn't belong to Michael Eisner, so he can use the resources to do things like this and then threaten me. I sued them, and that wasn't good enough for them. They stepped up their criminal acts. So basically, is the Walt Disney Company a private company or a public company?
Okay, and if it is a private company, then they do what they may. But if it's a public company, then they have to answer to the shareholders and to the public.
Just like Roy Disney did. He created a website, he protested, he put the facts out, and he started to make change in the company. Publicly traded company. Bob Iger says that in the opening of the website, that it's your publicly traded company.
So,
Bob Iger is just an employee.
okay, so Royce Mathew, this is what you want to see happen with Walt Disney. And that's to make Walt Disney a better company. But your issue or your lawsuit is for a supernatural pirate movie. So how is your lawsuit going to be successful if the shareholders hold Michael Eisner and all accountable? How will it help you?
When there's righteous change in the company, the Walt Disney Company will be acting like a reputable company who wants to discuss things and find ways to resolve things, not do what they did. What they did to me in court and behind closed doors is not acceptable, both professionally and privately. So, one step at a time.
Now, Royce Mathew, do you personally view a corporation as large as Disney having human emotions or characteristics? Do large corporations have accountability and responsibility, loyalty? Can they be made to have those characteristics?
When Michael can pay out $130 million about because he decided he made a mistake on who he hired, that's called emotional, or is that business? Okay? Jeffrey Katzenberg was under contract, sued Michael Eisner, and finally, during the legal proceedings, Disney said, we'll settle. So, who's in charge of the company?
It sounds
Michael
like
Eisner.
Michael Eisner.
And Steve Jobs is the first individual. He's the largest individual shareholder. He can make change. He's on the board of directors. He can demand accountability. Shouldn't people be fired for writing with fraudulent physical evidence? I have to be taking off here, so we have to end this call soon, in about a minute.
All right. Well, Royce Mathew, thank you for sharing your story, what's going on with you here. I learned a lot. I understand that when you have a creative property, just because you have it registered with the U.S. Copyright Office doesn't mean that it's going to remain yours. And with your particular property, Supernatural Pirate Movie, amongst many others, you say, you have become a victim of a very large company, the Walt Disney Company. And I wish you success with your lawsuit. And again, your website is disneylawsuit.com. I want to thank you very much.
Remember one thing here. It happened with Roger Rabbit, The Lion King, and some other creative properties.
So Walt Disney has done this before. You're maintaining that Walt Disney has taken other creative properties before.
No,
No?
it has to do with how they run their business. You can read about those stories on the internet. We don't have time to go into them.
Okay.
But Disney basically acts like a private company. That needs to change.
Thank you again, Royce Mathew.
All right, thank you.